present 8 to 10 exhibitions a year, highlighting a mix of regionally, nationally, and internationally acclaimed artists focused almost exclusively on contemporary art. We serve a diverse audience of university faculty, staff, and students, artists, museum patrons, and donors, while simultaneously striving to keep our exhibitions directly relevant and engaging to our surrounding Birmingham communities. We help represent the visual arts at UAB to local and regional institutions, but also the national and international art community. First, I would like to thank Susan Laney and her team at Laney Contemporary in Savannah, Georgia, for their help in making this exhibition possible. An extra special thank you to the lenders of this exhibition and also to Rich Gear and Dana Thacker for their generosity. And of course, I would like to thank our UAB Visual and Performing Arts members and all of our supporters. Without you, this exhibition and programming would not be possible. Before I introduce Jiha, I would like to remind all of our virtual attendees that if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box at the bottom of your screen. AEIVA's education manager, Christina McClellan, is at the event both virtually and in person, and she will read any questions you may have out loud to Jiha at the end of the presentation. Christina is also available if you have any tech-related questions or issues. For those of you who are with us in person tonight, hold your questions until the end, and we will let you ask them directly to Jiha, and Christina will type them into the chat box so that our virtual attendees will know the question being answered. Jiha Moon is known for her juxtapositions of Eastern and Western cultures through the exploration of imagery that ranges from historical Korean iconography to contemporary American pop culture. Within her paintings, works on paper, and sculpture, Moon combines layers of images such as dragons, birds, flowers, tigers, bananas, Indian gods, fortune cookies, and peaches to address the idea of a global society. Moon earned her BFA at Korea University and her MFA at Ewha Women's University. Both are in Seoul, Korea. After moving to the US, she completed 2 additional master's degrees, an MA and an MFA at the University of Iowa. She has participated in artist residencies at the MacDowell Colony, the Fabric Museum and Workshop and Museum, and the Singapore Tyler Print Institute through the Asia Society. She was the recipient of the Joan Mitchell Foundation Painters and Sculptors Grant in 2011, and she has exhibited at museums and galleries all over the world, including Crystal Bridges Museum of American Art, Laney Contemporary, Mindy Solomon Gallery, Kemper Museum of Contemporary Art, Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden, High Museum of Art, Paisley Institute of Contemporary Art, and so many more that I can't name them all tonight. I'm excited to now hand it over to Jiha so that we can learn more about her work.
Hello, everybody. Can you hear me well? Yes. Okay, thank you for the nice introduction, Tina. It's my great honor to be here today. And I'm really excited because I feel like this is the first show during the pandemic, but we are somehow open and hybrid format, and some of them are online. Many of you guys here, we're together in this room, and I haven't done this over a year, which is I guess, as an artist, it's like my important job to go around, meet people, and talk about my work, and I haven't done this in person. So this is really important event, I guess. I have been in discussion with Tina over a year about this show, and we gather work from my existing inventory and also help with Susan Laney Contemporary in Savannah, Georgia, where she carries my work, and we look at all the work together and sort of figure out what to go where. And today when I walk into the museum, and I was really shocked. Almost, it was beautifully installed, and I was really excited to see my own work in a different setting. And I have to say that every time I show my work, it's not just my work; it's a collaboration of curators and museum directors and gallerists, and it always carries their opinion and their perspective. And even if I make my work in my studio, it's not my own anymore, and it has a lot of people's opinion and feelings and emotions, and within the specifics setting, it just carries a lot more than what I expected. Almost, it's a little cheesy, but it's almost like you have your son or daughter, they go out to the world and they represent you and your family, but they grow as their new own person. And sometimes you see it, it's a lot more than how you expect it, in a very exciting and amazing way. So I kind of feel that way today. So thank you so much for such a beautiful job in the museum. And I'm super excited for you guys to go see the show after this, and have a conversation with the work. So Tina made such an amazing introduction, almost like my artist statement, but much better way. I don't feel like I need to talk about my work in general, but I'll bring a lot of fun story while I'm making, and then how people respond about my work. And so the first thing that you see, I put together slides that are not included in this exhibition. I wanted to showcase a lot more variety of my work, painting, prints, sculpture. And most everyone's met here is the traveling solo show exhibition that Halsey Institute and Taubman Museum put together, and then travel about three years. And that was definitely one of my most important show in my artist career. And it went around mostly mid-sized museum around the country, in the South and some Midwest. And I got to meet a lot of people. So that was really amazing. And the title came from one of my painting that you're about to see. And Enigmatics is the solo show that I had in New York right before the pandemic. I can't even explain. It just that show was just very important for me as a person as well, because right after that, I had to go visit my family because my father was really sick. And then lockdown, pandemic, and then during the pandemic, I wanted to move forward, like, how I navigate this world as an artist and a person. And me and Susan decided to just go for it. Let's have a show. And during the pandemic, we did the show last November, and then we powered through January. And I still think that that was a good decision I made. And we just learned to live with it, learn to deal with the situation instead of, oh, let's just wait until the world gets better and have a show. And I don't even know if that world exists. I'm sure we'll find out, right? We'll constantly work on it and then deal with the situation. That's the world, that better world for us. And so this quote is from Alice in Wonderland, Disney's adaptation, not from original novel. And I have a question from a lot of people, like, what's your influence? I get that question so many times. So they're looking for something they're familiar with. When they're looking at my work and something looks very familiar, but at the like same time it's kind of strange. So they're trying to gravitate towards something they can recognize. So they ask influence a lot about my work. And then I get sometimes irritated, like my work is not about the influences, it's its own. But then I think about, it's like where they kind of start thinking about the conceptually, like how they landed in my work and sort of visually latch on and then develop and then try to understand my world. And so influences are important. And Alice in Wonderland is such a big, popular, sort of classic, like, story for, I think for adults. I think for adults, for children as well. But for me, the adaptation of Disney version of animation is more influential to me than rather than Lewis Carroll's original like novel. So I capture the quote here, and then I want you to think about this conversation between Cheshire Cat and Alice. So Cheshire Cat as my mom or your mom, and Alice as me. That kind of makes sense. She's sort of trying to help me at the same time, but then she has her own force that come across overwhelming to me as well. But I always think about it, whether you believe in God or religion or philosophy, anything you think is like such a bigger force in your life, what that can be as visually. For me, that's Cheshire Cat. And for me, that's my mom. Um, I know that's something kind of scary, but I want something to be funny as well. Because Jessica here, are you trying to help or you're teasing me? That's how I feel like it. Like, nature, like, it's something like, we always trying to incorporate and protect and fight. I mean, nature is something that you can't do anything about it. It's big force, and it's, for me, it's almost like a bigger force or religion or God, and we have so much trouble as a human being to trying to figure that out. And I much rather want to think about it something kind of scary, but also something kind of funny and humorous, and I can kind of deal with it. So I started combining a lot of things in my work. So let me go back a little bit. When I work, I work very spontaneously. I have a couple things in mind. I'm working on painting, I'm working on ceramic, I'm working and collaborating towards a print project, and I have multiple things going around, but I always want them to collaborate with each other and sort of echoing. And conceptually, technically, they need to somehow collaborate too. It gives me really strong meaning in my studio. So I do have all these different projects, but I started out as a painter. I've been painting for a long time. And in my mind, it's my, I guess soft spot. Like I always like want it to be called painter. And I came to United States looking at all this amazing abstract expressionism, which I'm really hugely influenced by again. And can I be them? I I tried, then I realized I can't be. I mean, I'm my own. I'm my own hybrid thing. But so I had the great envy for abstract expressionism and abstraction and abstract painting in America. That's the first reason I came to the United States. And then I pretend I'm an abstract painter for a long time, and I made like lots of weird stuff and work. And then I realized I'm not dead. I always want to tell the story. The story is in my heart, and it's a really important thing. So I slowly inviting back figurative elements in my work. So as a painter, I spend a lot of time, but then I always have a tendency of like making stuff, like tactile stuff. I want to make stuff, and then one side of my brain, I want to be a painter, and then I think about it. I collaborate with printmakers, and they produce my print. I can't. I'm a lousy printmaker. I can't make prints, but someone else can make my print based on my images. So it's like, it's a really. I got really confused for a while, and then at the end of the day, I was thinking, nobody calls Andy Warhol printmaker. He's an artist. Let me be a good artist. Like no matter what I do, like cross between different genres, and I'm doing this and doing that, and then it sort of come back to the painting and drawing in some way. But at the end of the day, I want to be a good image maker. I want to be an artist. So it gives me a lot of freedom, like in that way. So painting that I made, this one is Everyone's Met Here is that title. And I was also thinking about portrait hybrid landscape. So you'll see sort of my version of Cheshire Cat face. If I point it out, you kind of see the detail. So like at first you kind of see as an abstract painting, but then as you visit, images in detail, that'll sort of like give you a new perspective. Oh, that looks like a face. So I make paintings a lot in that way. And then, like I said, I have a different series. This is one of the early fan series. And not particularly I'm crazy about this painting, but it's a really good to talk about this painting. This painting is called The Beautiful Country, which means America in Korean. And so fan painting is object based. And here I put another fan painting on top of another background. So there's a two landscape like echoing each other. And then it's funny, the gook means nothing bad in Korean. It means nation, it means people, and also it means big parties. Like, remember my grandma talk about like the word, like, when nobody has so much food to eat, like we have a little bit of meat and we make a big party so everybody can taste a little bit meat. That's what we call like a big party. It's like soup, it's guk. But guk is also derogatory terms to call Asian people here. But then it's like I kind of think of it as almost like an inside joke. Like Yankee also is a kind of translated that way. Like, it's a Yankee like baseball team, it can be just okay, but then it can be used as a derogatory term to call Caucasian, but like if you say gook here, Asian people will get really offended. But in mainland in Korea, like gook, like Migook is beautiful country. So it's giving back to you. Like we call Migook, they call Hanguk, like, it's gook, right? So we call each other gook. So it's kind of funny. So I thought that I would want to make a painting about that. So this is painting, and it says cook in like in the yellow letters on the left side. And I was also thinking about what's most American like a holiday wise is 4th of July. And when I think of 4th of July, I think of fireworks. So I wanted to borrow the images that chrysanthemum, also we call it gukwa, has cook in it too. So chrysanthemum sort of looks like fireworks to me. And then, fortune cookie, it's a most misinterpreted piece of objects. Is in a Chinese restaurant, people think that they were experiencing exotic Asian sort of culture, but in mainland China, nobody knows what fortune cookies are. And actually, it's an American invention. So it's like looking at each other like, oh, they're exotic, but this is American thing. So, and then like as you can see the yellow marks, and like I was kind of thinking about brush stroke, but then it's like McDonald logos, and so there's like lots of like interesting misunderstanding. And then that fan painting put together, I make a multiple fan painting series. I make about 4 or 5 pieces together. So individual piece talk about one story, and the multiple fan paintings talk about multiple stories. So like you're watching CNN, what's going on worldwide, at the same time on Facebook, you're chatting with your friend. So there's something personal, something really global can be happening at the same time. So when I'm looking at fan paintings, I'm thinking that way. So imagery does not contain in one fan, it navigates through different, fans. And I make this very organically. I start out with 3, 4 things, and then sometimes like the piece that I kind of feel like I failed, and then bring it back out and cut out and like make a juxtaposition. And then I just like looking at it and then work on it. It kind of become very organically come together. And another multiple fan painting. And then I was also very interested in how people read pattern as a code, cultural references. Like, even like about like 10 years ago, like tie-dye shirts, I like try to put it on my son. My husband will give me stink eyes, like, don't do that. I'm like, why not? It's like, and then he sort of educated me about the tie-dye culture and like, anti-war and the hippie cultures like in 60s. And I'm like, more so I love it because it's just very rich. And I love the like, the freedom and like, people were just like rebellious and trying to do their own way in, it's just bring more contents for me. And then at the same time, they have like a drug problem and all the sadness of it. And I mean, it's just really for me more reason to love. And then at the same time, you go to like the travel, like fun for traveling here and there. Like tie dye is such like what do you call that? Like it's like a touristic stuff become a pattern in Miami. People wearing that beautifully walk around. So it has a very multiple layers and storytelling, and also it's different generationally. Also culturally, also like tie dye is like very fashion. Like in when I go to different country who do not understand hippie culture at all, they're just more so than beautiful pattern. And there's another multiple fan paintings. This one called the Yellow Wave. And then from this painting, I just had so much idea, and then I wanted to create a lot of different things. Um, and then try to read that. So I was looking at Korean folk art. It's based on Confucianism, and then it's like the idea of how can I say, like lecturing people in a way, like you need to respect elders and you need to get up early and then be diligent and really lecturish, right? So that's the overall in like throughout Asia, um, Korea, Japan, China, like Confucianism is really strong, the philosophy, and we grow up with, and how the in the society like a mid uh, uh, what do you call that? Like just not fancy people, mid range, like people who are just like us. They want to use that philosophy more fun way, so they decorate those like a lecturer's idiom with the heavily decorated with colors and patterns and almost unreadable, and it make me feel like people are really naughty. Like they're like a folk art, so they take something really like from high scholarly level idea and then they just translate it so that they can still enjoy. So I'm looking at those folk art in Korea, and I was thinking about I want to do something like that with my understanding of slang or idiom in being in the South. So bless your heart is one of the expression. It could go either way. You could be very sincere, but you could also give it to somebody. So it's like, yeah. So I really love the idea of doing that. Um, 문자도, which is like a Korean folk art, the letter design folk art. So I made several pieces based on that, and um, people think that it's Korean, but like it's in English. So, and this piece in the show, and this I was kind of playing the idea of duality, like life and death, night and day, man and woman, something that we kind of think as like total opposite, but we understand duality is so important to coexist and to complete, you know. In that way, when I think about it, like someone's dead is not so sad, it's completed. It just wrapped up and beautifully and finished the life. And I try to understand the, I guess like overcome my fear that way as well. And then this one, try to read the center like a square shape. That's actually based on like Asian chop marks, usually used with color red. But here I use color blue, like blue, like a Facebook blue. So so it just kind of take away from the original identity. So it doesn't really look like Asian chop mark anymore. And then here it says Like in the center. And then everything around it is all these creatures like, looking at each other like, I want you to like me, because like we are in that culture so much. And this is kind of a larger piece, about 60 by 40. And by the way, all my paintings work on paper and on Korean mulberry paper. And I also use acrylic paint, which is water-based media. I don't use oil. All my work is water-based media. I see acrylic paint like America. It's like less than 100 years old and constantly evolving and changing. And acrylic, you can do so much. So I make like horrible jokes sometimes, but it doesn't work that way. But I like to say that the 5,000-year-old Korean tradition, like a paper is that old, and then I'm married to like a young 100-year-old acrylic, so they're happily married in my world. So so these are the new painting series. I try to be a little bit more minimal and try not to use not as much as iconography because I'm really into it. I love it so much. And sometimes if I think about what if I just like kind of limit myself not to do what I love to do so much and see what happened. So that's where my Yellow Wave series came about. And then I was using color yellow as like a focal point. So it could be like a beautiful blonde, gold lock, American beauty, but at the same time, like, white people call the Asian yellow. I don't know, because I don't have yellow skin. But it's like, but every fun thing I think about, like emoji, they're yellow, they're maybe they're Asian, right? The Simpsons, Simpsons, why are they yellow? They're American. Simpsons the most American, like, cartoon, but they're yellow. So I don't know. I think about that a lot. And then I'm in here this piece, and when a lot of people wearing red pink hat and then just the protest in DC, I was in my studio, like I cannot go outside, but what I can do as an artist. And then around that time, people also talk about like, oh, yellow, brown, and magentas are super hard color to sell. And it's not really blah blah blah. And I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna use more. so this piece of yellow wave with magenta. So I was thinking a lot about you know movement, like women's movement. And then I couldn't resist adding back on my iconography again. So bluebird here, the bluebird is one of the idea that I really love about, because it's like a hope, and it's also Disney, one of the Disney character that. And also in Korean folklore, we have a bluebird story that carries like the good news. But then you think about bluebirds like Tweeterbird now, right? It's really not only good news, right? So it's like always kind of thinking about that in my head, and I want to create that kind of drama. And you just sit throughout my artist career, you see my bluebird, how it's changed, like from here and then Tweeterbird, and then now it's like this is tattoo, and I'm thinking a lot about tattoo design, and that design sort of like navigates through Eastern and Western, and also American tradition tattoo design. So I'm looking at that again. And then I love this piece. I don't know. It's a small 16 by 20, very smaller piece. Um, it's called Spirit Worm. And this piece and this piece, these two pieces, I started out in my studio, and then I had to go see my dad in Korea, which is like beginning of pandemic. And my hometown was epicenter. It was crazy. Like every day, like 700 more people. But then I just like I couldn't. I mean, I had to go see my dad, and sadly he passed away. Not for COVID, he had a cancer, but he passed away. And then I came back to my studio. My work looked different. Like what I did care a lot more before visually in my work didn't mean anything after I came back. And I look at the work again, like, and I just rework on it and they add a lot more. And I was thinking about life and death a lot. And then these two pieces came out, and I really don't have much story for it. But here are the animal skin shape, and I was thinking about, like in Korean idiom, people say that people die, they leave their name. Animal die, they leave their skin. So I was kind of thinking about that, like, and also thinking about how can you paint the spirit? Spirit is something really abstracted, and it comes as so many different form. So I was like working on this, and then like end result, I titled it Spirit Warm, because I kind of feel like warm, like the color, and then the movements. And then people, like I said, people like bright, cute, beautiful things, and I often have this brown color, yellow, magenta, like sort of old color, not non-popular thing, but it has a meaning to it. And I love this earthen sort of like old paper color, because whenever I buy this paper in Korea, it's almost like a skin, and also it's like sort of talks about aging beautifully, and it remind me of old book pages, like antique, like old wooden cabinet or furnitures, and something that I feel like things can have spirit for, and I kind of try to use my color scheme in that way. And then this one called the lucid yellow, and then my idea of tie-dye. And, I was talking about before, I wanted to sort of create this like sort of illusional, beautiful space that are really deep and then shallow at the same time. So there's a lot of pushing and pull. And then this is print. I collaborated and like so I talk about my work in general, so you kind of see what's going on, right? Those brush stroke with tie-dye, but also like bananas from Andy Warhol's Velvet Underground album cover. But it's also kind of fun slang for I've heard Korean like second generation of Korean high school student, they call each other, "Are you fab or you're banana?" Or it's really funny. Like they always want to define themselves. They want to have a sense of belonging. And what's banana? So white inside, yellow outside. And a lot of them don't speak Korean, so they're basically American. So I wanted to sort of reference that. And then the fortune cookie coming back as a little object in this one. So this is litho and screen print and Shinkolei. The part that the brush strokes, the multiple color brush strokes, those part is printed on Korean mulberry paper, hanji, and then cut out and like glued on. And then I have all these fortune cookies. I wanted to. They were like a little drawing for me, and this one I was thinking about. Like I doubled them, and then I was thinking about me and my son. It's kind of funny. Oh, okay. I made a lot of them, and they're very fun. And like also talking about tattoos, like a drawing can be done on paper, flat 2D, but it could be on the surface of object. And the way people treat them so different. They're absolutely more unguarded. They love objects, like in general. Like they have something like that in their house, like little knickknacks. Like they travel around and buy stuff, and then they have their little curatorial section in their house. Everybody has it, and I sort of don't think about that in that way when I make a small object. And then this is takeout box. When it's 2D, it could go all different direction. But this is my favorite like orientation of the work. So this little bird with a baby head holding a letter, right? She's bluebird. And then you see the bluebirds here, right? The Twitter logo. And then I decided to make objects when I have a show at Mokajie. So this is the object. I mean, this is actually not the next slide. I'll show you this. This is actually Korean objects called norige. People wear under their jacket like this. Right? So I'm going back here, and this is 19th century Korean painter Shin Yun-bok, who paints beautiful Korean woman, and you can see that she's holding one. And then I wanted to make object using crazy material, not the silk rope. So they've done it, they do really well, so I can do something really crazy and different. And as you see, this queen, she's wearing the jade one, and to see the servant in the back, like she's wearing the fabric one. So it kind of indicates social status as well. And then this is my Korean K-pop star. They don't exist. I don't think they exist. They went to military service or something. So, but the K-pop stars, but they look at their hair, like they dye their hair green and purple, and it's not given. I mean, Asian have dark brown hair like me, but this guy on the left, on the right, like he has blonde, and then he has dreadlocks, right? And that's just Japanese cosplay. So animation character, and they're wearing blue contact lens. No Asian people, guarantee no Asian people have blue eyes. But identity is something, it can be changed by your will now. It's like we live in a whole different world, and it's not just given. You can change it. You could be also educated, and also you could be layered. It you could be disguised, and it's just really complicated, right? And that's the world we live in. And I wanted to make an object based on that. So this little girl has like, what do you call that? Beads, all these plastic beads. And then that's a picture that I got online. I thought that was really funny because Marie Antoinette has blue hair, and then hair, or like the what do you call that? The ornament is crazy, over the top. So I started making my own object using ceramic and hand knotted elements, and also hair tassel, not silk tassel. So on the top part, the hand knotted element, I needed to learn how to do that. So I had the assistant, and we were looking at YouTube tutorial, we were looking at the book, trying to figure out how to do hand knot. It was killing us. It was like super hard, almost like a mathematic, But I also learned that knotting is a language. In different culture, they have Celtic knots and different knots, and that was, in the beginning, that was actually language, before the language. So it's really interesting looking at all different cultures. So I made a lot of these guys. Whenever I make these, I think about a people, who brand new person that I meet on the street or like school or a grocery store even, like, oh, you look very familiar, you're fantastic. I mean, I love your style, but I don't know anything about you. Like familiar and strange at the same time. And then we all live in this world together. Like it's such a hybrid world, right? So when they are all together standing, it's like a group of people that I unknown or familiar people. So I did this project for Mukajie, and then it traveled for a long time. And then after that, we got sick of doing hand knotted elements thing, and then making like the dreadlocks, and so I wanted to free myself, and then I wanted to make objects. And then those element comes back on my object as well. So this is like, I titled it March Hare, like Alice in Wonderland character, sometimes like kind of ringing in my mind. And I wanted to bring that quality. And then you see the fortune cookies, and that's actually the fan shape painting, but as an object. So it's really interesting painting front and then painting back. And then, but it's an object, right? You go all around and look at it to understand paintings. So it's weird, and I love it. And I love to make people feel confused. And I hope that's okay. I think that's our artist's job. And peach, um, that peach actually shape mostly came from the Asian manuscript painting, and they have a big feast outside, and the lots of gods, guardians, they're like enjoying their meal outside, and their peach is on the plates. And the shape came from that, not actual peach. So I'm referencing painting to make 3D sculptural symbolic shape that looks like baby butt. And my son always said, it looks like a butt, baby butt. And I also reference that too, because those manuscript painting, also the tip of the peach look like a bosom, like, and I actually like that idea, like whichever sort of like you're related to, and then you kind of get closer to work, and then sort of looking at it, and it's an entrance to getting the bigger, deeper, concept. And this is in the show. And then tattoo, I mean, like for ceramic work, glazing is like kind of fun, because like when I use underglaze, a lot about drawing and painting, and it just the color that I see, it's like exactly same. But actual high fire glaze like kind of mess things up, and I kind of like it. I feel like I'm collaborating with my kiln. So, well, painting, it's happening right in front of me, and that's what it is. But ceramic work, it just kind of messes up or take it to an unexpected way, which I like it. I mean, I like print that way as well, sort of indirected or different outcome. This one called Norang, and as you can see, like, jug, like the stack of like sculpture, then I sort of reference base jug and peach bud and fortune cookies, and fortune cookie 2D and 3D coexisting. And YOLO, by the way, I use YOLO a lot. And when I was in that situation, we had a different president, previous president, and I thought about like Barack Obama a lot, like, and then how like slang was so popular at that time, YOLO, because I remember seeing him like a little this silly video, and you only live once and you do your best to support you and try to be happy. And it was really popular with Barack Obama time. It's huge in Korea right now. That slang, that YOLO is like, people have YOLO life, and I don't know, it just kind of went crazy. But so I just kind of feel like, oh, this is really interesting because it was once it was popular here, but it's kind of go back to different country and then it's popular there now. And nobody, like almost no one uses that expression here. And it's the installation picture at Hudgens, and see, when I'm not using pedestal, this is like tea, sort of like borrowing tea ceremony kind of look. But this is the found objects. The table is actually from HMAR, in the movable table. So it folds out the leg and then put the sculpture on top. And when they did some kind of the Japanese like anime like festival, some visitors invite themselves to sit down. And the Arsenal director sent me this picture, and I was like, oh my God, that's hilarious. So this isn't Photoshop or anything. This is actual picture. And it's an installation picture of like the Halsey Institute. And I was kind of, in a way, using that table setting a lot as an installation. It's really interesting. You can kind of see the whole idea of like my version of like Alice in Wonderland in Asian version. And I actually did that for a while, and then I'm gonna stop doing it because I want the individual work to be looked at. Because as an installation, it's interesting, but it can get lost. So I did that for a while, and then now I'm like here. We use this beautifully designed table, thanks to Tina, and then you can actually individually look at the pieces. But there's some power in that installation because, like, I really sort of recognize people immediately move their body to look around, and then they just kind of like lower their body to look at the objects because it's a low table setting, and I like when viewers work, right? Because my painting and my sculptures are not moving, so. And then I included lots of fun, like reference photos, and I talk about my influences. So this is temple painting in Korean temple, and you'll see a lot in temple, like, use lots of different colors. And it has a two folds, like, protect the architecture, and the birds don't build a nest, but also it's beautiful to look at. So it has a different function. It's the Mexican anatomy, like patterns, and you see it's like there's some overlap with Korean folk art, the colors, and you see that in the next picture. It's my son's 1-year birthday, and look at all this color. We celebrate colors because it's fun, it's cheap, and it uplifting people's mood, and color is really great for me to communicate with the viewers. And then Cupid doll, I was obsessed with it, and I was wondering why I'm so obsessed with it, because the head shape looks like peach. So I'm like constantly looking for it, and then I realized it's American. I forgot her name, but she is first American female painter, illustrator who was super successful, and then she become very also financially support herself and then make a lot of money too. Why not? Right? So I was really great to find out the woman illustrator who's super successful actually is American. So Cupid doll designer. So I make paintings, and then here, like, I just thought that was fun picture because every single father does it to their kids, right? So I made a piece like peach eater, and then Southern Face Jug, the Atlanta Historic Center. I took a picture there, and then I made my own version, right? And then people are like, when I used to go to ceramic studio, they always ask me, "Are you gonna put candle inside? Like, is that okay? My sculpture doesn't have any function." Like. So it's just like I was thinking about like emoji, like a big laughing face, but at the same time, make sure you know that this is not functional and it's okay not to have any function. It doesn't hold water or liquor, right? It's a sculpture. And you know who she is? she's a big inspiration for me. But although I don't like Star Wars series too much, and my husband always say like, if you want to be true American, you need to watch Star Wars, and I always fall asleep watching Star Wars and going back and forth. But I did make a sculpture inspired by Princess Leia, right? The croissant, like instead mine's peaches. And then peaches can be boobs too. I mean, this is called Mama. I mean, so and then I make a lot of like a face joke, sort of inspired by peach and like other things, but my own version of like face jokes on the other side. And then kimchi. She's Korean drag queen kimchi, and I wanted to make my own version. And then I make mask, so the hair extension kind of coming back, but I don't have to do hand knotted element much, but it's just sort of give me freedom to explore more different characters. But I didn't make anything like based on certain specific character. So when I'm making things, it become its own thing. And then this is little. So I kind of wanted to show how they're all related. Okay, you guys been very patient. So this is my last photo. All right.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for everybody.
I think Christina said she does have a question from the chat.
Do. So from Sarah in the chat, where is your work headed? Are there new symbols and palettes appearing in your new work?
Yes, I'm always looking for it. And whether I'm working or not, I guess like I'm like an artist mode, like, you know, like even when I'm doing grocery shopping or I hang out with my son and learning new things about like today I didn't talk about Angry Bird, but like, you know, when he was young, the Angry Bird was like one of the inspiration. And you'll see in the show that comes out, it's sort of like Angry Bird combined with Peach. So like it's like a new hybrid things. And I feel like as an artist, I always reflect to the world, ever-changing world, and I respond to it. So God knows what's gonna come up. I mean, I'm not doing TikTok or anything, but like, you know, I'm open to learn more and then sort of hybrid and then translate my own way to edit on my work. So I'm open to a new thing. I'm always looking.
I would totally follow you on TikTok.
No telling what you would find on TikTok.
Christina, make sure you let people on the live stream know that we will be doing a virtual reality version of Chicago's exhibition that we'll have available in the next couple of weeks.
Anybody in here have a question?
I guess I did super well.
Well, then I guess, do you have any others, Christina? That was it. Okay.
Several people say your work is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I try.
So thank you everybody for joining us in person, and thank you to everybody online.
There's one.
Oh, there is one more?
Yes.
Okay.
So do you have your next exhibition set where and when?
This exhibition just opened. You know, Chasing Spirit. Tina beautifully titled, so I should have had it added on here. So this is just up right now, and then what I have a million things coming in. I just can't remember sometimes. I need my husband. Okay, let me think. I have a show in New York this next January, and I have a solo show in their main space, so I'm very excited about that. And I have a show with the Mindy Solomon Gallery. New York show is actually their gallery in New York. And I have a show with Mindy in Miami, Mindy Solomon Gallery. And I do have something I can't remember. But yeah, I'm constantly working towards the show. And I have a couple other group shows as well. Find me on social media. I'll probably have a post it there. In Facebook or Instagram.
You're very active on Instagram.
I try to. I'm trained myself that way, but I don't know what's gonna come next. I feel like I don't know if I can do TikTok. It's
I'm there with you. I
and
don't
then
think I
also
can.
like I'm trying to like learn like the story feature. Like Susan showed me several times. I just can't do it. It's just like a very 2D
Yeah,
way. Instagram, yeah.
We'll have another one.
Okay.
Someday.
Yeah. So K-drama is becoming big in the US. Have you been studying the influence of K-drama on the US culture?
Drama in US culture.
Yeah, some people because you're about K-pop and how just the focuses here, so K-drama is taking over the entire world these days. I mean, when I call my friends in India, they're watching K-drama. It's the world.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh. I think it's really amazing the how world becomes so interconnected and really, and what I'm looking at here, they can look at it over there. I mean, but K-drama, I mean, it's really popular. I'm really glad it's doing really well. And it's I don't understand. I think that what your question, can you ask the question again? What I think about K-drama?
No, are you studying the influence? I mean,
Studying on influence in K-drama?
the K-drama is so different. It's like a fantasy line. And then how do you think in terms of its influence on the US culture?
US culture. K-drama in US culture?
Right.
I don't know. I'm not sure how to answer that. But K-drama also depends. Like there's a fantasy ones, but there's also historical ones. There's a comedy but I can tell you what I think about BTS. They're like really big here, right? So big. They're not. I mean, there's no fan here, right? I mean, they're big. They're big. They're big, but they're not as big in Korea. I mean, that's how I understand. And my favorite K like singers are different. And it's not known in US much, less known, I would say. But BTS is like, I mean, I think they really are proud. Like Korean people think that they're really proud that BTS doing so well here. But I live in the like with a hybrid, family members. Like my husband is Caucasian, my son is half and half, and I have like my best friend, like, Japanese and like, African American. When we talk about it all together, I hear everybody's opinion. So I kind of level it, right? Down. So I learn from their perspective too, like, how they think of BTS. It's not all good. So it's kind of funny, interesting. But I also try to how can I say, educate the way I think. Because my dad is a man of the man. He's a man enough for my mom to take over, and he'll listen everything that my mom says. But he's like really like man. But he will wear proudly pink shirts because my mom, this looks good, wear this, and he'll just wear it, right? And they're more open that way. Like, sometimes I feel like if in America it's more uptight or conservative in some ways. Like I see my dad wearing pink or like salmon color or bright like green, you know, and maybe that's why I'm really not like I'm not picky about the colors, and I have my own interpretate interpretation of color using a color. But here, like if you wear certain things and you're metrosexual, and then why guys are wearing makeup? That's crazy. Like and then they're like, oh, it's all Korean people have like plastic surgery. Is it true? Like men like in Korea wear makeups, and you know what? This is the world we're heading to. And then let's think about our next generation. And then you don't want to tell them what to do, what not to do all the time, and let them choose what's right for them, right? Because it's their language. So I don't know, I'm really feeling, how can I say, privileged that I'm in this situation, have this very diverse and but different, experience both in Korea and America, and also having my son, like, he also educated me. He's so young, but there's always something to learn from younger generation, from their perspective. And respect their opinion. I mean, I hope my son is not listening to this right now. But like, why are you not doing what you said? But but it's like there's always like room to learn, to communicate. I mean, I didn't talk about so much in this lecture, but there's a lot of generational reference as well. Like tie-dye maybe the one example, but like, in 60s and 70s and 80s, in 2021 now, and then the future, there is a huge generational gap that's worldwide, I think. Like, miscommunication is not only coming from different races or different country. Miscommunication is coming from generational gap as well. And I think that we both have to make an effort to communicate. So I look at references that way, and then I combine it in my work. So that's why I look at all the manuscript painting at the same time K-pop.
I think that's a good segue for our last question. Have you thought about creating work in response to recent of anti-Asian hate crimes?
It's a very sensitive, it's amazing question. Thank you for asking me that. You know what? I think that I've been doing it. I feel like I'm getting a lot more notice of people ask me to be on a Zoom panel and talk to the group of people or things like that, because it's been always existing in my work and usually, and people just start noticing more and more now. So I don't know what to say. I think that I do what I do continuously. And also at the same time, I want to say making artwork is, for me, is a freedom. And through my own storytelling and my decision making, the choices that, like technical choices that I make, and I always try to link to my concept. Because I want my work to somehow make sense, like support what I'm trying to do. But it's never one or the other. Like my concept and my technique, they're always fighting. Some work, like my concept is a little bit higher. Some other works, my like technique is a little bit, or everything in between, including mistakes, are all important. And I want my work to be its own. So it's just as important as an artwork, like freedom of my storytelling. So that's very important. But then important issues come through it. How many times you watched your favorite movie over again, right? And the visual art is the same way. Like I said, hey, my work is not moving. Like sit there, and it's your job to move, constantly trying to make a conversation. And I have that experience looking at my favorite painting, looking at it again, and then as I get older, and it has a different wisdom. Or maybe I'm not that crazy about it anymore, looking at the different work. But like as you get older, it's not the work that you are changing, and that's the perspective you are projecting to the work. And I really hope that viewers can do it, look at my work over again, and then they find their way to make a connection and then make a conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for everybody that came here in person, and thank you to everybody online. This will be recorded and posted on social media. And for those of you online, we're also going to post a virtual walkthrough on our website. So that's that. But those of you who are here, if you haven't seen the show, we're going to be here a little bit longer. So please make sure you go and visit Jiha's show. She's in the 3rd gallery. We also have the recent acquisition show in gallery 1 and 2. And then stick around for some remarks from John before y'all leave. And yeah, that's it.